And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a great conversation today. We're going to discuss again Jaden Ivey and one of the other reasons why he got kicked out. We're also going to discuss how the Democratic Party have truly become the Democrats that they are. And we got some other news, and we're going to get caught up. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Now, come on in. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. First, let me give our praises to Yahuwah and Yahusha, that's God in Christ in Hebrew. Well, folks, talking about God in Christ, an NBA player, Jamal Ivey, said he found God. He went through a lot of things in his life, and when he tried Jesus, he was saved. In the meantime, in between time, when he went on the rant on Instagram, the front office of the Bulls, instead of coming out legitimately saying, we just want to trade you, they made up a lot of different stories. They said that he was unbecoming, showing character that was unbecoming to the team and all the other good stuff. But in the meantime, after he left, which they decided to pay him his $10 million salary, and his wife came back. You just can't make this stuff up. There was also some other things that we're going to uncover, some insurance schemes and frauds that went through the NBA. And I don't understand, how is it possible that you make millions of dollars playing in the league and you still find a way to steal money and do illegal things? And we know the NBA just been caught a few months ago with the gambling issue. But this is a different issue. This is insurance fraud. How petty can you be to be a millionaire and you stealing insurance? It's totally ridiculous. But we're going to talk about that. And also we're going to talk about the Democrat Party. To the American people and patriots across this country. On this show, Let the Truth Be Told, we've been talking about the Democrats because they are the Antichrist party of today. So if you ain't got nothing to do, folks, y'all come on in. Let me get my group in here. What's up, Randy, Dre, and Mr. Binky?
How you doing?
Guys, listen.
Hey,
now, we all old sports guys, right? The things that are going on today in the NBA, man, it's just totally unfathomable with the players now. Since Ivy brought out the truth, since he got saved, he got saved and he snitched on everybody. So what some of the players were doing, they was using the insurance and picking up insurance money by creating false claims. Your thoughts on that, Randy?
Go to jail. Go directly to jail. Don't even worry about it. But I would say no. Seriously, I would say yes, they should go to jail. Seriously, but they also should pay restitution. Since they're defrauding, not only the government, but they're defrauding the people that actually need these services. So all those millions of dollars and the mansions and everything else, pay the money back, spend some time in jail, move on.
Mr. Binky?
Well, didn't you talk about Trent Ivey, that he came out being saved and the Bulls said that kind of tarnished their look, so they let it go? Well, how can committing insurance fraud, being a ball player, not be tarnishing the same image that they're trying to persecute, and make Trent Ivey look bad at? It's kind of
Well, I think some of the people in the front office was part of it because it was an insurance scam. So somebody in the front office had to be part of that. Dre, your thoughts?
Yeah, and here's the thing. What we've seen in the United States, we've seen a lot of high-profile people that get caught, they get busted for doing the wrong thing. And what ends up happening is absolutely nothing. They pay the right people off. They have the right lawyer. They get a slap on the wrist, like Mr. Binky is indicating, and we move on. And America is disgusted, but we see that the rules are for thee and not for me. And it seems like the people that are on the bottom of the totem pole get the full wrath of the legal system, while the people on top have all the legal protections and don't have to be held accountable for the wrongdoing that they do illegally.
Well, guys, and all of you are totally correct. I just think it's sort of petty. And that has to do with you as a person and your character, that you would make all this money and yet you would steal insurance. I mean, that comes to do with how you was raised and the type of household that you lived in and the people that raised you. Because, when I was coming up, I was taught not to steal. And, that's like one of the worst things in the world to do is lying and stealing is the two worst things that could get you stomped the mud hole in my house with my dad.
Yep. Well, look at Dave. Look at the politicians. Look at the Bidens. Look at the Clintons.
Yes.
Pelosi. All governments doing the same thing. They're doing wrong, and then we expect them to hold themselves accountable, and it don't happen.
No, and you're so correct, Stephen. They won't hold themselves accountable. But this young man, he has caused a great stir. And believe me, when you find God in Christ, you find a good thing, because now you want to live your life right. And I think part of the reason that this thing has done really broke open, and all these other ball players, I just can't fathom the thought of somebody like LeBron James, who's a multi-millionaire, would be stealing insurance. I mean, and the list goes on. They're putting the list together. So let me play this clip, guys, and we'll talk about it.
NBA and its culture. And shortly after the Chicago Bulls waived him, instantly sparking controversy. Now rumors are spreading online of multiple NBA figures facing federal scrutiny and possible suspensions, with fans linking it all back to Ivey's comments and alleged revelations. In this video, we break down what's being said, what's confirmed, and why this situation is blowing up. Get ready, because this is getting serious. On March 30th, 2026, a 24-year-old guard who had once been the 5th overall pick in the NBA draft logged onto Instagram Live and did something most players would never consider. Jaden Ivey posted and live streamed on Instagram, where he made critical comments about the NBA's involvement in Pride Month activities, ultimately leading to him being waived by the team on the same day for conduct detrimental to the team. Just hours later, the Chicago Bulls released a statement confirming they were done with Ivey. The speed of the decision shocked the basketball world. The NBA world was still reeling after the abrupt news on Axe star Jaden Ivey. Ivey had become one of the biggest stories in sports after he took to Instagram Live to share his comments on the NBA's advocacy of the LGBTQA community. The former basketball star's comments sparked immediate reactions from people all over the world. But Ivey didn't go quietly. He fired back almost immediately. Ivy responded in a live stream hours after being waived, saying, "They're liars, bro." He said, "All I'm preaching is about Jesus Christ, and they waived me. They say I'm crazy. I'm psycho God, let these things happen for a reason." Then he went further. He started naming names, not just teammates, not just coaches, but the biggest names in NBA history. Speaking to his social media followers, Ivy blasted the Bulls and the NBA. He also took shots at Stephen Curry, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan, alleging they don't know Jesus Christ. He said all them rings LeBron got, all them rings Michael Jordan got, all them people in the Hall of Fame who don't know Jesus Christ. It's not gonna matter on Judgment Day. This wasn't a man trying to save his NBA career. This was a man who had clearly decided that something else mattered more. And what was happening behind the scenes painted a picture that was far more complicated than a simple social media rant. This came in the wake of several social media videos which lasted nearly an hour, and an increase in evangelism in the Bulls locker room, which agitated some team staff members. Meanwhile, across the country, in federal courtrooms spanning 9 states, a completely different kind of NBA story had been unfolding for years, one where more than 20 former players had been dragged into the legal system for a scheme that had nothing to do with religion or free speech. It had to do with fraud, and the parallels between Ivy's willingness to speak and the way that fraud ring was exposed carry a common thread. Somebody talked in the NBA healthcare fraud case. While many of the more than 20 defendants convicted in this case were well-known NBA stars, their conduct was otherwise a typical fraudulent scheme designed to defraud the NBA's healthcare plan and net the defendants over $5 million in illicit profits. According to U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, the ringleader was sentenced to a decade behind bars. NBA champions were convicted, careers were destroyed, and it all started unraveling because someone cooperated with the feds. So 2 very different situations, 2 very different kinds of snitching, but in both cases the consequences were severe, and the NBA's silence culture took a massive hit. To understand how Jaden Ivey ended up on Instagram Live calling out the NBA, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Stephen Curry all in one breath, you have to rewind to where it all started falling apart. And that begins on the first day of 2025. Through 30 games in the 2024-25 season, Ivey was averaging a career-high 17.6 points per game, and on December 26 hit a game-winning 4-point play to help Detroit beat Sacramento 114-113. On January 1st, however, Ivey suffered a broken fibula. The injury was gruesome. In the fourth quarter of the team's 105-96 victory over the Orlando Magic, the young NBA player suffered what appeared to be a serious injury to his lower left leg. Ivey tumbled to the ground, and the athletic training staff.
So, guys, I want to get your thoughts on this. Now, they put a lot of people on the investigation. Now, isn't that some chump change for you if you're an NBA star? $5 million for insurance fraud? What are your thoughts on that, Dre?
Yeah, you would think that that would be chump change, but for some of the athletes that are not mega stars, like $5 million is still a lot of money, especially when they're making only like hundreds of thousands or just maybe like a couple million. Some of those that may be coming off the bench or maybe in the G League that might be appealing to. But with this report, I have a few problems because a lot of it is based on hearsay, and he named like a lot of big names, and it is definitely fair for him to be as an observer and take an opinion and say that these big name people don't know God, right? Maybe their relationship is not as strong as his relationship publicly. But like behind closed doors, I don't think we can just kind of leap to those types of judgments. I've heard LeBron refer to the man upstairs, which may not be good enough for a lot of other people, but it's a lot more than some other big stars have said. I've also heard stories that people have attempted to evangelize to LeBron, and a little kid around like 5 or 6 years old gave him a wristband that says Jesus loves you, and he wears that during the games. So like like I can understand why Ivy's upset. There's not a lot of prominent Christians coming out and really leading with their faith. And we see like this filth culture, this culture that's based on, money and women and championships and competitiveness. And he's taking a stand, and I applaud him for his stand, but he needs to have a little bit more evidence before like just like putting out names. And then as far as like the secondary report about the insurance fraud, you know, we have evidence. There have been people arrested. I wish they would have named the people that have been arrested, because we could have talked about them. And
We're gonna get on down, and he died down in the.
Okay, sorry.
Your thoughts, Randy?
I agree. I agree with Andre there. Accusing people based on little or no evidence. I get it, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate there for a second.
Okay.
He may know. He may actually know. He may have the evidence, but he just didn't want to throw it out there.
Oh.
Given they're in the locker rooms together, on tour buses and all that kind of stuff. He probably knows exactly their lifestyle. That's why he's like, y'all don't know God,
Yeah.
So I can see why he would say it, because
Right.
given the profession and the atmosphere that he's constantly in with these guys, so it would make sense on that front. But I do get what you're saying, that he doesn't know their lifestyle per se, but then again he does. So
Right.
I can see that he felt convicted enough. Let me put it like that. He felt convicted enough based on his interactions that these people are not a good character. Now the flip over to the next page on that same note, a lot of people in the professional athletic industry, they call on God, or they display their faith on the field because they're in the public eye, and that is
Right.
the
Absolutely.
that's the acceptable, normal thing to do. But you notice those same people, they're getting away from it because it is getting frowned upon, because of the mixing of these alternative lifestyles
That's right.
coming into that's wedging itself into the arena. So it's like, oh well, I'm just gonna keep my prayers to myself, or I'm just gonna do that in the locker room. And when we come out on the court, it's rainbow flags for everybody, and
That's right.
on our jerseys, and we just want to call it good. And they pose that through as striking a balance or being respectful, and it's like, yeah, no, you just can't. Because Chick-fil-A actually dropped a tweet. I want to say it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. They said, we're not going to give in to the peer pressure of society wanting to celebrate Pride Month. We're not doing that here. We
Right.
respect what you do, but we're not doing that. So you can cancel us. You can do whatever. We still gonna sell our chicken sandwiches. Y'all have a great day. So
before I get to Binky, I want to say this about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a hypocrite, because they first came out talking about, because when I remember Chick-fil-A, when they first started way back in the 70s and stuff, when they started to get popular, okay, and it was all about the Christian thing. So when the LGBT stuff first broke back then, Chick-fil-A distanced themselves from that, and they said that they was not going to get down with that LGBT, because there was a lot of Christians. Let me say this.
They're still like that.
When I played football, praying and knowing God was part of the game.
Yep.
We prayed before the games for protection. So, because we knew we was in a real sport, not like these little chumps today with them little baby pads on.
Yeah.
We was hitting and people. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I'm suffering at 68 now, man. I was just in the sauna. Them old football wounds got my leg dragging, my neck popping, and shoulder. You know what I'm saying? But the point that I'm making is having a relationship with God in sports back in the 70s and 80s was part of the game.
Yeah.
You prayed before the game, you prayed after the game. Christian athletes always congregated together. So it was in the open. God was in the open. God in Christ was always out there. When you see boxers, first giving honor to God. I mean, football players pointing to the sky for God. But what happened is that as long as we went along, they started pushing God out of the sports. They started bringing in all the pride stuff, all the different, the satanic stuff, drugs, alcohol, and women have always been part of the sports world.
And Pastor Laurie, can I add a few things? Because Randy brought out some good points. He started talking about the alternative lifestyles. I want to bring that out, and I also want to talk about player stature, because if it had been LeBron James, if it had been a Deion Sanders, if it had been someone that was like prominent, I don't think they would have gotten rid of him as quickly as they would have, because then it's money. And if you guys remember, when Chris Paul got kicked off the team, what did they say about Chris Paul? Eventually, it came out that he wasn't a team guy. And since he wasn't like the best player on the team, the rest of the team, the management wasn't going to take it from him anymore. So with this Jaden Ivey guy, he's not like the top player on the Bulls team. And going there, evangelizing the guys, calling guys out, maybe even calling out management, and then messing up their money flow from these corporations that support LGBTQA communities. You know, they were just like, that's enough. Like, we don't have to take this from him. We can just eat the money that we're getting from him and send him on his way. So we're talking about levels.
Yeah.
And his player stature is not a level where they would accept him making those types of statements publicly.
Mr. Binky?
To hit on Randy and Andre's points here about fame and money, I'm not about watching movie stars and idolizing them. I'm not about idolizing politicians. I'm not idolizing athletes, because that's all about two things: money and fame. And they expect you, as Andre was just saying, if you ain't somebody, we don't want to pay attention to you. This is where we've, as a society, we've lost ourselves, because people don't have a life anymore. I don't, in my opinion. We don't have a life anymore because we're too wrapped up into what LeBron James does, or Michael Jordan, or Jeff Gordon, or the president, or we're too wrapped up in idolizing people. We've lost our lives. We've lost our point in our life of being what we want to be, because we're so evolved about these players that are making, he's making $10 million in his contract, and he, and they don't produce, but they still get the money.
That's right.
Now this guy, Mr. Ivey, comes out there, he boasts about how he believes in God, his faith, and they get rid of him. They make him look bad. We've got to stop as a society of idolizing everybody else. It's entertainment, people. That's right. All it is, it's entertainment.
But let me say this. That's true. It's about that. But what it's really about is this: because of the decline of the church. See, the church used to be like the number one vehicle and a hospital to get you back on track in your life. You know, when a lot of guys growing up that I knew of, we was all out there in the streets, we was athletes. It was the church that brought us back to human ground level and gave us the mindset that we had to do righteous things. Because I'm telling you, when you're an athlete, I'm telling you, the money, the drugs, all the money, the women, all of that, you got access to all that. You got the name, the fame, all of that'll corrupt you. And so for our young men coming up in the day, having a foundation with God settled you down. It made you think much more logically. It made you get away from the drugs. It made you get away from the alcohol and the women. Being a Christian and having that kind of foundation, because I knew a lot of guys, man, up all night snorting cocaine, blah, 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 drinking, sex, 5, 6 women. And then all of a sudden, when Christ came into their life, just like what happened with him, when Christ comes into your life, it disappears. It's just like you wake up like, oh, that's enough. I don't want nothing to drink. I don't want no more drugs. I want to live a life now. And that's what was important, not only to the athletes, but to all Americans, because we all lived outside on the wild edge at some point in our time in our lives. But we always had the church and the pastors who would always pray for us, who would always open doors for us and get us back on track so we wouldn't get caught up and die in the sins of the world. But see, this is the point that I'm making. When we had God and Christ in our lives and in this country and in sports and in politics and all the facets of life, they prayed before they did everything. And now that you took prayer out of the country, once it got out of the schools, it got out of the country. But what you did do to replace that, you ushered in LGBT. You ushered in Satanism. You made it okay to be a cocaine head. You made it okay to be an alcoholic. You didn't provide any type of spiritual foundation for young people so that they could thwart off the evils of the world. And I think that I like the fact that he found God, I'm praying consistently for him, but also he exposed a corrupt system that's full of sin and mayhem and lies and killing. He exposed that, because when God touched your life, you don't care. You give everything up and you surrender to him, and then you become a child of the Most High. You think different, you see different. So I just think that when they removed religion from these sports, and where you couldn't pray, you could kneel down and all that kind of stuff, when they took all the spirit of God out of sports, that's why it's so evil right now. Your thoughts, Randy?
Amen. you said it all, and Steve is absolutely right. You know, we sit around, we spend our days, you know, some more than others, but we spend our days, you know, worrying about what other people on the dummy tube got going on in their lives versus what we got going on in our lives. I don't care about somebody who's making X amount of dollars playing, dribbling the ball or throwing the football or whatever the case. I don't care about the politicians that's making money off the stock market and all of that, whatnot, because they're going to get voted right back into office because we don't care. That's the problem. We don't care.
That's the problem. Yes.
We talk about it, but we don't do anything about it. And so it's like, if I spend my time worrying about what I got going on, then I shouldn't have time to worry about what you got going on. And at the end of the day, if I get wind of what's going on and I don't like it, then if I have the capacity, then I will do something about it. Like go to the ballot box and vote you or vote against you type of thing. Or not watch your games or attend your games because I'm going to boycott that. Those are the things that I focus on. So I 100% agree with you, Steve, and Pastor David, that we lost our way on that.
We lost our way, Mr. Bing.
Yeah. I think the most important thing, in my opinion, if I say something to anybody and they feel I'm wrong, I want to hear about it. I want them to say, look, I don't agree with what you're saying because I could be wrong. But the biggest thing in my life that I think that we should be focusing on is just like what we're doing on this show here. It don't matter what color we are or where we come from or none of that stuff. What it is we're sitting here trying to make sense of chaos and everything we turn around to. I mean, we've been going through the rich versus the poor, the black versus the white, LBGQ, the straight, God in, God out. You know, this is just a constant arraying of division. And we can sit here and as I said, if I'm wrong at something, you tell me. Yeah. I will do my best to research what I'm saying. If I'm wrong, by George, I will tell you I'm wrong. But I will also fight when I believe I'm right. And I'm going to bring the receipts, the facts, and the evidence, and fight I can't fight with everybody. I don't want to fight with everybody. And I don't condone this division. I don't look at money. I don't look at fame. I don't look at sports or movies or nothing as being something higher than I am.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's entertainment. And when the entertainment's over with, I turn it off and I either tell myself I liked it or I didn't. I don't get all tied
Well,
up where I'm spending $2,000 to go watch a 3-hour football game.
yeah. Well, you know what, man? Sports is always going to be sports. For me, I think the game is totally different today.
Yeah.
The players are different. They don't have the mindset of really standing up for themselves, because all the Christian basketball players should have been walked off the court when they did this.
Mm.
They should have. Just like with the strike with the NFL that time. They went out and they didn't come back until they got what they wanted, because the league was making a killing off of them. And those players was putting their lives on the line and going out there. Daryl Stink, remember him? He got his neck broke.
But
New
that
England
was about
Patriots.
money, Dave. That walk-off was about money and what I want. It wasn't
Yes.
about supporting a man who had in his belief.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's more powerful, and that's worth more in life of your belief than money.
Well, you know what? That's why this issue is at the forefront of everything, is because, to me, this is one of those moments where his faith, he stepped out on faith. His faith in God and Christ showed. He put everything to the down, got rid of everything, and said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to surrender to you, and you lead my life. And so I think that when he found that and he stepped away from it all, now everybody seemed like it's such a bad thing, only because he told the truth, because he did tell the truth. That the LGBT is doing unrighteous stuff. They're in the schools doing unrighteous stuff with the kids. They're forcing their lifestyle on us. I mean, everything that we doing today is centered around how they feel, and it shouldn't be that way. If I'm a Christian, if I want to pray wherever I want to pray, I'm going to do that no matter what. I mean, I pray at the gym. People call me, hey, Pastor, pray for me at LA Fitness. And I stop doing what I'm doing and I pray for them. So as pastors and men and women of God, we cannot be afraid to stand up for God in Christ. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. This is a wake-up call. But the reason why the LGBT got so powerful was because the church got infected with LGBT. They killed the spirit of God. They didn't go out and evangelize. They have made a mockery of the church. And that's why a lot of people don't fool with the church or want to go with the church, because the pastors in these churches have come against God, and they're not standing up for righteousness. And that's what this is all about.
You know, Dave, we've got to start thinking. We've got to set the example, not be the example.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Because if we're going to be an example, it could be for our wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like I said, this is gonna play out in court, because there is some substantial evidence about the insurance fraud in this video. But we're gonna move on to the next thing now. To the American people and patriots across this country, it's like, how much more damn foolishness are we going to allow the illegal migrants to continue? Guys, I just can't fathom the thought that they are here illegally. The Democratic Party is supporting them no matter what, even over American citizens, and they're using taxpayer dollars to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I ran across a video Mr. Mickey told me about this morning. An illegal alien killed another woman with a hammer. A hammer, mind you. I'm going to play this clip, guys, and then we're going to talk about it.
Christina, Ohio, and Dallas, and here are your top stories. The man who attacked and killed a woman at a gas station by hitting her repeatedly with a hammer has been identified as an illegal migrant from Haiti. He was released into the country by the Biden administration in 2022, according to DHS. Robert Joaquim was ordered to be deported that same year, but the Biden administration stepped in and gave him temporary protected status, or TPS, protecting him from being deported. He is now in ICE custody. Surveillance video captured the attack. Joaquin is seen smashing a car windshield with a hammer in the parking lot of the gas station in Florida. The clerk, a 42-year-old mother of two, stepped outside to confront him. That's when Joaquin ran up to her and swung the hammer full force into her head. She collapsed. He then hit her 6 more times as she lay unconscious on the ground. She was pronounced dead at the scene minutes later. Fort Myers police arrested Joaquin, a 40-year-old illegal migrant, after a quick manhunt. He is being charged with murder, and a judge has ordered him held without bond. That's what you need to know. In Dallas, Christina Awilo.
All right, guys. Mickey, you first. Tell me how is it possible? And this is what I'm saying. They all need to be gathered together. They don't need to be in this country anymore, killing American citizens, and the Democrats are just acting like it's nothing, that it's random. Your thoughts, Binky?
First of all, it's our fault because we elect people into office who give an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Our country comes first. These people that are making the laws, ignoring the laws, we've talked many times about this. There's no such thing as sanctuary. There's laws. And if you're not complying by the laws, you're doing an illegal act, plain and simple. There's people being brought over here. There's people coming over here giving exemptions like Biden did to be over here that hate this country. They hate the people. They're bringing, and I'm going to say it this way, they're bringing their racism over here from their country, and they're using their hatred for this country to kill people. And then we've got our justice system, not justice, but just us.
He's out of bail on bail already. Go ahead.
Well, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be.
Exactly.
And that's where I've been saying, we've all been agreeing, saying, these people are politicians, anybody, a mayor, a governor, I don't care who it is. If they're not abiding by the law, they're breaking their oath, and they should be arrested because they are part of these crimes. They're allowing these people to come in here and commit these crimes, and then they make excuses for them.
Yes.
It's got to stop. These laws are not thrown on our throats.
Yes.
We're not the puppets here. We're the masters. The puppets are the ones that they give an oath, don't they?
Yes, they do.
When
They
I
do.
tell you guys I'm going to do something and I don't do it, do you trust me?
No,
Would you ever want me to do anything for you again? No, you wouldn't.
you're a derelict.
Exactly.
You're in dereliction of duty. That's what it is.
Yep.
And we've got to stop allowing these people in public servant offices, whether it's the president on down to a city mayor, when they don't uphold their oath, they're in breach of the oath, they're in breach of public trust, and they're breaking the law. They are no different than what we are.
Exactly.
And
Andre?
accountable.
So I agree with Mr. Binky. He said that this was our fault. And I do believe that is our fault because we have a culture problem in the United States. Because something that I heard that kind of blew my mind was this woman who was working as a gas station clerk decided to go out and confront this man. Where were the men? Where were the men? Why didn't she feel comfortable calling the police to deal with this situation? Where were the men on that shift or nearby? She couldn't, like, chivalry is dead. So I'll start doing there. This. But
doing this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm so mad. And you know what? My wife and I decided that we were going to retire her from work and she was going to focus on our children. And I understand that not everybody can make that same decision, but we need to still treat women as women. You know, we need to be out there and be someone that they can depend on to protect them in situations just like that, that they shouldn't feel emboldened to like go and confront a crazy assailant that's out there busting up windshields with a hammer. Like that's when you just I'm telling you, if I saw
I
that,
call the police.
I would call the police. I'm not gonna go out.
Exactly.
People are crazy these days. But let's look at the TPS, because we know a couple of things that are going to happen. We're not going to hear anything from the Democrat side about this. Okay?
No.
They're not going to say any words about it. They're going to ignore it because in their minds, illegal aliens cause just as much crime as everybody else. They're going to leave it there. They're not going to address it. They're not going to say anything to the family. They're not going to do any of that. Now, another thing that has happened is that there was a district judge that pushed back and made a stop order for TPS to run out. So the Trump administration did not do anything to stop it immediately. They were just going to let it run out the clock. Okay. But they prevented it from running out the clock. And, of course, Haitians are one of the ones that get TPS. Now, we're not ending TPS to be hateful. We're ending it because the T of TPS is temporary, and we've had all these different groups of people that have been here from a hurricane that happened 10 years ago that are still here under TPS. So the Trump administration was just going to let it run out and not renew it. And this judge emboldened themselves and said that they were going to supersede what the president wanted, and they wanted to come up with their own border policy and just put a stop order on it. Now this is going to go to the Supreme Court, and we're going to see that they're going to get overruled again.
You know what, Andre, thank you for pointing that out, because I was actually going to bring that up next myself about TPS and these federal judges who think that they have some kind of constitutional authority. And first off, ladies and gentlemen, patriots across the country, it was taking a lot for Pastor Dave there.
That's right.
You got to understand. Read Section 3, or excuse me, Article 3 of the Constitution. These federal courts are actually unconstitutional. When you actually look at how the Supreme Court is established, it doesn't say anything about lower courts. It doesn't say anything about federal courts. It doesn't say anything about that. It establishes just the Supreme Court of the United States. Full stop, right? And so when these other courts come along, they're established by Congress. Congress has the authority to fund, defund, create, uncreate these courts. And if I was the Trump administration and this current 119th Congress, I would say, hey, guess what, guys? Since we got these crazy ass jackass lawyers, judges out here impeding on our agenda, get rid of them. And there'll be nothing they can do about it. And also, guess what? Guess what else the Trump administration could do? They can ignore the court, just like every other president has done when they come down with an opinion, because judges can't make laws. Their opinions. Opinion is not law, ladies and gentlemen. That's
exactly.
So when they come down with these opinions and say, "Well, we think that you can't do this, and you should order," thanks for your opinion. This is what I'm going to do anyway. It's my lane. You worry about your lane. I got mine. But thank you for your concern. And keep it moving and deport these folks in the TPS status, the temporary protection status, because those are in the confines of the executive. And that's the problem with the American people today, is that they don't understand the roles and responsibilities of government and the branches within the government. So I yield the floor.
Go ahead, Mr. Bink.
I want to add something else about our justice system. The guy that slit that throat of that Ukrainian woman on the bus. They found him incompetent of being able to stand trial. But multiple times they found him competent to be in society to commit the crimes. But now that he's committed the crimes, he's incapable of standing trial. Does that make sense?
Not at all. And this is what I'm saying. See, I'm hoping and praying that during this midterm election, that the black community have about time to wake the hell up. Black people, we got to stop dealing with the Democratic Party because we can see all the things that it has done. It has continued to lie to Black people to keep us in a place where they just use us for votes. You know, that's the big issue, that we got all these Black politicians in place, got all these pastors, we got all these rich people. Why is the Black community in the condition that it's in? Why is it desolate? No economic development. Our schools, they're not teaching the kids nothing. And the Black community is suffering the brunt of all the illegals that are here. So, Black people, we need to understand that when we go to the polls, y'all talking about benefiting from the polls, the Black community is not benefiting nothing. It got nothing. It's a war zone. It's a ghetto. We're the only ones who have ghettos. I don't know no other communities that have ghettos. Do y'all? It's only in the Black community. And that's because Black people have been voting Democratic for over 60 years. We haven't held them accountable. And they bring everybody in, put them over us, and put them in our community, let them get rich, and Black people continue to down spiral. Now, this next clip I'm going to play, excuse me, is about the Democratic Party. It's what we've been talking about. I don't know how the Black community can continue to sleep when all of these things are happening around us, happening to our children, happening everywhere around us, and nothing positive. But there was a Democratic lawmaker in Michigan who resigned because she was sick and tired of the Democratic Party pushing the LGBT. I mean, they are the evil party. I would say that the Democratic Party is the what they call it, the Antichrist organization, because they have nothing good for the people. Let's play this clip, guys, and then we'll talk about it.
Just sincerely kept asking, please do not back me into a corner. Please do not back me into the corner. I'm not a co-signer of crazy. You can do all of that and be all of that all you want. But when you try to force it on me and make it my reality, now we have a problem. I don't understand how Christian, Bible go together and Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the Antichrist Party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-Black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the Black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used. Go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We've all given Democrats credit for that, but Johnson was the one that wanted to pass it, but he couldn't get enough Democrat votes to pass it. It was the Republicans that pushed and passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Go tonight and look it up. Look at Wiki, W-I-K-I, put it in there, 1960. He couldn't even get enough Democrats to vote for it. So he had to go to Republican senators in order to help him out. They are anti-life. The party pushes stuff that's anti-life. It pushes anti-morality because most of their policies are immoral, that pushes sexual perversion. It is the party of death. Why do you say that, Pastor? If you go back, you'll see slavery started with the Democratic Party. And we saw many slaves that died. We also saw under Jim Crow. Jim Crow was established by Democrats. And we saw under Jim Crow how many were hung and lynched. And then we are seeing today how many babies, African American people are giving up their future because they won't have, in another 15, 20 years, they won't have enough people because they have cut their birth rates off and have aborted their children. This is exactly what the party wants. So it is a party of death when it comes down to it. It is a party that is against black families. Look at the history of the family. From slavery, which were Democrat plantation owners, in slavery, they separated our families. They would not even acknowledge the marriages of black families. They would even take a black man over here who called himself being married to a woman, but if he was a big, strong guy, they took him and made him mate with another woman. That's one of the reasons our marriages and our families have not been strong, because the spirit of that has passed down generationally. We have not always had strong family structures like we should have. Now, we did good up in the early 1900s, 1920, 30. Our families were pretty good and pretty strong during that time. But what happened was they bought the war on poverty. This was Democrat. Bought the war on poverty. You know what they did? They gave money to fix a problem.
Your thoughts, guys? Your thoughts on that, guys? What you think, Randy?
He's 100% correct. And for those that are interested in reading my article that speaks a lot to this, it's on my Substack under Perman Associates. And I just wrote this last week, talking about how the Democrat Party has abandoned the black community once again. And when you think about it, you had Gemma Paul, whatever her name is, in Congress, U.S. Representative. She's calling for reparations for illegals that experienced trauma because of ICE. And it's like, whoa. But now you're sitting here talking to the black community and want us to jump on that bandwagon now? Miss me with that. And then, the other thing is Malcolm X pointed out back in 1963, somewhere around there, 61, about, the liberals love to utilize the black community as the political football, the political chips, the political pawns for their causes. That's why I say to this very day, I say we are the emotional support animals to their BS. They always turn to the black community and say, "Oh, hey, you need to come on board and help us fight against this cause. Oh, you need to come on board and help us, fight against this." And the Republicans hate you, black people. It's like, no, you hate us. You demonstrate you hate us because you're the ones that's running our communities. We're the ones that put you in power for the last 60 years, and you've done nothing, literally nothing but give us breadcrumbs. And then when it's time for us to come vote, you tell us we're going to take care of it this time. Well, this time has been this time for the last 60 years, and nothing has changed. And so now the black community is leaving the Democrat Party, and guess what? We are the only. It's mind blowing to me that we are the only demographic, the only ethnic group in the entire spectrum of the United States that vote 90% at a 90% clip for one party. And when we leave, or when we say that, we're switching parties, we're the ones that's attacked from within. You look at the Asian community, you look at the Hispanic community, you look at the white community, you look at any other community they're evenly split for the most part on their political affiliations. They don't get that backlash. They don't get that hatred. It's always and only the black community that gets that kind of hatred from within their own party. Make it make sense.
Yep, Dre.
So I deal with a lot of people on both sides, and what I found is we definitely have seen a change in the Democrat Party from the progressive wing. They've been doing and asking, requesting, and pushing legislation that for Christians is, for our standards, is evil, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't sit here and say that everyone that votes Democrat is evil, because I have a lot of family members and they're just with this party through thick and thin. They don't agree with everything that the party does, but they're just like, well, for the majority of the things on this platform, I agree with. And I don't trust the other side, the Republicans. And, what I think the Republicans should have done, they did a great job preserving the union, but they did not treat the Democrats that had basically left the allegiance of the country, they didn't treat them as traitors. They welcomed them back in, right? And that was for the betterment of our union. But as a result of that, we're in this
Empowered.
place of, you know, one side pointing at the other side saying it's evil, the other one saying that it's not evil. And I think that we need to continue to push policies that benefit our community, and we do need to fight back against our community voting for Democrats at a 90% clip. But I can't sit here and call them evil. I understand that some of the policies on the platform are evil, but I really have to separate that, because I have conversations with my mother-in-law, and you know, I have to like kind of separate some of these things, because you know, as we're dealing with people, we have to deal with them where they are. And
That's true.
the party has gone radical, and they're only watching one type of news. So they're not getting like the independent news. They're not getting what we're providing as far as like information. So I think that if we just, you know, put them all in a box, then we won't be able to get them on our side, and we'll be at this situation where we're talking in the next 10 years about the gap between both parties. So I want to try to welcome more people in, but yeah, we need to still bang the drum that these policies are bad, but it's not the people. We can't just line up with just the people that are
Mr. Binky.
Real quick, before Mr. Binky jump in, I want to touch on what Steve Andre just said there. I agree with you to a medium to a medium extent, and here's why. Yes, but I also look at consumption. And when you're telling, when somebody says, when you give them the information and they still double down on it, and they still say, you know, I don't care about all that, I'm just gonna support the party, you know, or you guys are evil and this and the third. Now you cross that threshold of being complicit and stupid in my book. Period, full stop. It's like, okay, I give you the information, and I'm trying to tell you, you know, this is bad for us, and you saying you don't care or whatever else. Now you're complicit and stupid, and I can't deal with you because there's nothing I can do. Family or friends, you know, that it is what it is for me, because it's like, no, you can't sit here and say that you're pro-black and this and the third, and then when I tell you that the policies that you're supporting is hurting the black community, you still double down on supporting it. Now you're complicit.
That's right.
Go ahead, Ben.
A couple of things that Pastor said. First, the Democratic Party has not changed. And I can take you all the way back to Thomas Jefferson and bring you forward. The Democratic Party has always been anti-American, anti-black, anti-black freedom, but they have become more deceiving.
Yes, deception.
That's what they've done, is they've polished up their deception to the black community. They're selling their party to the black community and welfare, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm getting at, is the black community depends on the Democratic policies to provide for them. We've got to get the black community and the white community. I'm not trying to focus on one or the other. We got to focus on all of us. The government was not created to provide nothing for us. They were created to make sure we had everything to provide for ourselves.
Amen, Brother Minky. You're right. Now, listen to this, guys. Okay, so out of these 60 years that we've seen such a decline in the black community, and Dre, I understand what you mean by you got people that are diehard Democrats, but the real fact of the matter is, it's because one is the deceiving, and two is the source. When you don't take time to research, you believe whatever the legacy media is going to say, and they are already pro-Democrat. The CNNs and everybody else, ABCs, they're ran by Democrats and the LGBT. I can tell you that for a fact. So that's how they were able to push all the LGBT stuff out on everybody through the media. They tried to make it normal through the media. They tried to kill the church, which they're doing a damn good job of it, and it all was promoted through the media. See, a lot of people are not going outside the normal media outlets to really take a look at what's going on, because Black people have been duped into thinking that my grandmama voted for the Democrats, and my auntie and my uncle. It is not the same party anymore. That party has been infected with evil, and I'm going to be straight up with you. There's no way under this sun that the American people and patriots, when we believed in God, we trust, this country ran like it should.
Pastor.
Even though Black people was in that situation, Black people had their own stuff, and that's what we lost it at. When we let everybody else come into our community and get rich, when Black people were self-contained, how was Black people living in the 20s when there wasn't no welfare? How was the Black Wall Street able to get started? You know why it got started? Because the Republican Party, the abolitionists, allow Black people to have their own stuff. The Republicans said, here, y'all take y'all stuff and go over there. Y'all can still stay over there. The Republican Party was started by Frederick Douglass, which is a Black man, but it too was infected with the type of Republicans that we see today. And that's what happened to us, because when I grew up in Chicago, we were conservative. Our lives were conservative. When I was coming up, if a woman got pregnant with a child and she was single, she had that baby. She either took care of it or she put it in the orphan, but they didn't kill it. And that's what the Democratic Party has promoted. They have promoted this abortion thing. They promoted homosexuality. They've promoted hatred between all the races. And yet now here we are, they're promoting more crimes. And Steve, you said it the best. They have become very, very deceptive. I'm going to play a little bit more of this. We're going to talk about it.
And live off of capitalism while they spout an anti-God, anti-America rhetoric. The Democratic Party, they promote Black women. Particularly if she's a lesbian. Yes. They promote Black women who are not even qualified. We have seen with the diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really racism, which is really saying, well, Black people just, darn it, they're not smart enough, so we have to give them handouts. And you're pushing Black women who are not qualified. Dr. Claudine Gay of Harvard. Yes. Now the head of diversity at Harvard is also accused, if I have it correctly, of plagiarism. And we'll get to Fannie Willis, who was elected as a DA in Fulton County, Georgia, primarily because she's Black, in my opinion. And we've seen case after case. But the Black man, where is he? That's done deliberately. And it started really in the 60s, where the Democrats pushed policy, right, that said to women, particularly Black women, you don't need a man in the home. We'll give you more money if you're single. And I grew up in the 70s and I saw the effects. I saw it in the 80s, the broken home. Now it's more dysfunctional home where you have some women with 8 children by 5 different fathers. Exactly. They don't know who their fathers are, in and out. It has almost destroyed the Black community, but they're doing it in a different way now. They're promoting Black women and want Black men to be down here. And I think Black men sense that, and they know that Trump relates to them. They relate to Trump very well. The evil Barack Obama.
Barack Obama is a foot soldier.
Oh yeah, for the globalists,
elite.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Barack Obama was a plant.
Yes. He was. And now they want to put Michelle.
Barack Obama was a plant. He did nothing for the Black community.
Nobody even knows who he is.
Did he ever come back to Chicago with this much crime to talk to young Black men? No. He doesn't give a damn.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
Barack Obama is a curse on this nation. So is Joe Biden.
I think it's the Black. Yes.
We provide the money for his Marxist socialist programs, pushing abortion in Africa and other things. He didn't care about us.
No.
He didn't care. That gave rise to Trump, because Trump actually listened to us.
Democrats and Christianity. First, to say that the Republican Party are sinners and they're anti-Christianity and they hate Jesus' teachings. But they're the first ones who also skipped Genesis, because Genesis says God created a man and a woman, an executive order that Donald Trump is doing right by the Christian faith. A man and a woman, punto final, period, end of story. The Democratic Party hasn't even gone through Genesis, yet they forget that God created life in the womb. Multiple times does it say, do not murder. One in the 10 Commandments, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And the only pro-life party is the Republican Party. So Democrats, not only do you not read Genesis, a man and a woman, not only does your party not care about a man and a woman instructed by God in Genesis, but they also murder innocent life. And nothing makes more sadness in God's eyes than the shed of innocent blood. And that's of innocent babies because of your abortion policy in the Democratic Party. Third, the children. Democrats are very quick to say that Republicans don't care about children, but yet it's the same Biden administration that lost over 300,000 migrant children. Where are they? Oh, also the children? Yes, the same one the Democrats want to teach about changing their gender when they're 8 and gender affirming surgeries. Democrat Christians, I'm appalled. Where in the Bible does it say God makes mistakes with our sex? Where does it say that God wants little Johnny to be little Janita? Or that God wants a little boy to be a little girl and a little girl to be a little boy? If you can find me that sentence in the Bible, please share that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Randy, your thoughts on that?
You know, Pastor, I would like to set the record or clear the record for the American people that's listening today. Let's stop saying that the Democrat Party changed. They've been who they were since the inception of time. You know, since the inception of the party, they've been who they were. And to Steve's point, they enhanced their deceptive practices. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when we look at the generational voting of Black Democrats over the last 60 years, it's by force. It started off by force. So we tend not to want to talk about that. That, you know, when they went to the ballot box in the South, they had a gun held to their head to vote for Democrats. So we tend to forget that. And then it became generational. So grandma, or great grandma rather, nowadays, great grandma is told grandma, you're going to vote Democrat. Why? Because I said so. Then grandma turned around and told mom, you're going to vote Democrat. Why? Because I said so. And mom is now telling us, you're going to vote Democrat. Why? Because I said so. There's no analysis. There's no, well, let's examine the policies. Let's examine the candidate. Let's see who's running, what they're running on. This. No one cares about that anymore. It's do what I say or else. And because that's been ingrained into them by those in the South that forced them to vote that way. That's where all that stems from. It's generational voting through deception and through force. And they just haven't broke that chain block. And so this is where we at today. And you go out there in the streets right now, to this very second, you ask a Black person, why are you voting Democrat? Because I was told to.
Exactly.
They can't name a policy that's in favor of them or what they actually support. They can't do it.
Nor do a lot of Blacks. If you ask them, who is your alderman? Who is your state senator? Who is your representative? They do not know. No. And for the lack of knowledge, of people will perish. And that's what we're seeing right now. That's exactly what we're seeing, because Black people are not researching. They're not looking for things to be able to be self-sufficient. They're studying, waiting for somebody to save us. And it's us going to have to save us. Bink, you want to say something before I play this next clip?
I'll real quick. I got to get going here. I've got an appointment at 11:30. So the lady that was speaking there, everything that she said is the actual truth. She was informing them people of what is really going on. And I wish there was more people like her that was around this country that would start going and hitting meetings and school boards and everything else and speaking out like she is. That's to Randy's point. We got to break this ideology that I've got to do something because somebody else told me to do it, and get back into researching what the people stand for before they vote for them, before they support them. So, But I got to get out of
Guys,
here.
I'll see you there, Mr. Binky. Have a good one. Randy, I got another clip we're gonna play. We ain't left yet, Randy. I got one more clip to play.
All right, see you safe.
Now check this out. This is what I want to talk about the weak black leadership, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
It's because in 2020, when Joe Biden got elected, we know he stole the election. But these were the so-called black leaders. You know, Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. He did all of that. I'm going to play this clip. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get out of here, Randy.
Documented. The reason why our society
is to really lay it all out on the table and let people see and hear for themselves exactly how the Democrat Party feels about minorities or about anybody that's not in alignment with the Democrat Party, especially if you're a white male and you're not in alignment, you're the enemy. If you're a black male and you're not in alignment, you're the enemy. And very few black women aren't in alignment with the Democrat shenanigans, but there are a lot. There are thousands and thousands that are converting every day, that are seeing through the racism of that party. And I don't throw around that word loosely like the Democrats do. You know, if you disagree with somebody, oh, you're a racist, you're a bigot. But what you're going to see in this video, this is a Zoom call that Joe Biden had 1 month prior to swearing in for the presidency. And he did a phone call with the so-called black civil rights leaders. And the level of disrespect and how he speaks to them and the things that he says was jaw-dropping and shocking. And at one point in the video, he even blames America's problems on the minorities and speaks about how Hispanics are really the group that everybody should be looking toward to do things with. Why, i.e., remember, he opened up the border to get those illegal immigrants over. So it clearly shows Joe Biden wasn't as ignorant and as blind to what's going on as they like us to believe he is. Now, at the end of his term, yeah, he was totally mentally gone. But on this Zoom call, and there's a clip of where he speaks about how great illegal immigration is and how awesome it is.
we can afford to do this in terms, this is a big country. The idea we can accommodate more people in the interest of the United States. And by the way, guess what? They're the reason why. The legal as well as undocumented are the reason why our society is functioning. The reason why our economy is growing. We don't talk about that. We stand up and act like it's a burden. It is not a burden. It's a gift.
And then, in this clip where he's sitting right next to Mayorkas, talking about his plan to flood the country with illegal immigrants.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. Folks like me who are Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America from then and on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
So no longer will I dismiss this as if, oh, this was just the Democrat establishment and Joe Biden was too senile to know. No, this was intentional. It was on purpose, and it was to establish a new voter base because they realized that black demographic is moved on and they're becoming Republicans. They're going back to the party that we've been the majority of the time in this country, which is Republican. But I'm not going to speak too much. I'm going to enlarge this to full size. And I want you to listen. If you're somebody that's here for one-liners or jokes, it's not going to really be that in this video because I'm going to let Joe Biden play. And it's fairly lengthy, but it's extremely important. If you're somebody who loves this country and you really want to dig beneath the surface and see what's going on and how people are treated behind the scenes, because this wasn't a public Zoom call. It was private. And it was very, very challenging to even find this because the headline.
Let's get to it.
In the content so far, it really helps out. YouTube's algorithm loves it when they see likes or the hypes or when you leave.
Same exact page. The same exact page.
Now, do you notice how he's gaslighting them? He's the only white boy this. He's the only white boy that stood up because he stood up and he mentioned things that we now know are not true. Mm-hmm. Trump is not the racist. He's the same one that said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. He's the same one that said poor kids are just as talented as white kids. He's the same one that said Obama was the first clean, articulate black, as if there aren't other black people out there that are articulate and that are clean. It's the most insane thing in the world. And look how he's speaking to him. He's screaming and yelling and he's pointing his finger. I wish the video wasn't so fuzzy so you could really see he's pointing. And even before he started talking, when that black guy, Derek, was, he's gaslighting him again. opportunity zones that Trump did in his first term. This man makes me sick. On the heels of all of the stuff that's taking place in the country right now, seniors
I want to get to the
and that are clean. It's the most insane thing in the world.
Bigger than you or anybody else out there on voting rights. 1,000 in this campaign. Not a joke. 1,000.
Listen to how he's disrespecting them. Now, you might have missed it because I didn't play that part in the video. This lady in the upper corner, she was talking.
Restored to them. That's been my position before it was anybody else's position. I've been out pushing that. In addition to that, I think it's really important that no one goes to prison for a drug offense. Nobody. They go into rehabilitation. Rehabilitation. That's what we should be building.
I got to pause it again. Again, this is the same man that wrote
to prison.
Your thoughts,
for a drug.
Randy?
Mm-hmm. You know,
see, Joe, what Joe is doing, Joe is telling these black leaders what they is and what they ain't gonna do. He treating them like trash. What's your thoughts? I'm gonna get this other piece queued up. Go ahead.
That's the thing is, you know, the Joe Biden. He it's so funny because I'm like, man, history is just amazing. Joe Biden was telling everybody who he was from day one that he stepped in. The day one, you know, and his family is rife with racist and anti-black people. You just go back and look at the history of the Biden family, and for those that sit there and say, "Well, they changed," or the party, no, they haven't, guys. They just stop with the madness. To speak to this particular clip here, that was Cedric Richmond that was in the bottom right-hand corner there. Cedric Richmond used to be a highly, highly respected black Democrat in the 90s out of Louisiana 2nd Congressional District. I even liked Cedric back in the day because he was very, very much moderate and down the middle on a lot of things. And he saw that the party was shifting a little bit. And in order for him to stay relevant, he had to shift with the Obama administration. And he got on board with the agenda of the Obama administration, and he flipped. And people didn't like that, and he ended up getting voted out. Well,
exactly.
He got elevated to go to the Biden. I'm
gonna see if we can get this thing. Yeah. I want the American people, especially black people, to see how Joe Biden created, how he treated our supposedly black leaders. I don't know none of them Negroes except Al Sharpton, and he down there looking like a big head cricket. So he ain't said a word.
No more mandatory sentences across the board. In addition to that, we're talking about having diversity hiring in every agency. I promise you that is going to happen. We're just getting started here. Police reform, judicial reform. Look, you know, if you notice, when I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee and when I was advising the president, who did we get on the court? We got on a woman who worked for me, became a member of the Supreme Court. Another woman who was a leading Hispanic in America, no one paid attention to, is on the court. All the people that I pushed on the court have been really pro-civil rights judges.
Now we know why those leftist judges are so heavily activist for the Democrat Party. One of them worked for Joe Biden.
Kristen, that everybody has to be a prosecutor. I'm a public defender. When I'm president of the United States of America, we're going to see to it the public defenders, federal defenders, get paid the same as federal prosecutors, so we can attract people. There's a whole range of things I guess I'm trying to say here. Look, the whole idea of equity is built into everything we've done. For example, I laid out my COVID team. Nobody's ever done this before. We're going to have Marcela Nunez-Smith, but she is going to have one job. We have an equity task force. Her entire job is to deal with the inequity that exists because of racial discrimination. And Ms. Campbell, that's what this is all about, making sure that. You may remember, I'm the first person, black or white, who called attention to the fact that you were finding that there was the rate of people who were African Americans who are dying was 3 times that of white people. That's because a friend of mine, a white guy who happens to be, as you well know, Derek, the mayor of the city of Detroit, called me to tell me about it. I insisted that we keep a record on everything that happened since then. Guess what I'm saying, guys, is, I mean what I say. The hard part here is we're going to have a lot of trouble getting a lot of this done with this Congress. And so the question is, for example, I'm going to be appointing at least, and look, the reason I'm not telling you who the other black made in cabinet positions I'm going to appoint are is because it'll get out. And guess what? I can't defend them. They're going to be out there by themselves without any defense before their name. They're going to get ripped to shreds. That's why I'm going to wait. You will be pleased, I believe. You will be pleased to see there'll be more African Americans in major positions within a cabinet in major spots and more Hispanics in major spots than ever in American history. That's going to happen. I promise you that. And the other thing is, for example, thus far, for example, when we went ahead and we made sure that, I have as
I can't take no more of that bullshit from him, that bastard. Anyway, Randy, your thoughts on that, man? Because black people, you see these house Negroes just sitting there listening to this buffoon. They're not saying nothing. He couldn't talk to me like that. I would be looking for him to stomp him into the ground.
Yeah.
You speak to me like that as a man, I guarantee you're going to suffer some consequences. And that's what the black leadership have become. They have become those pets that you were talking about. They have become idiots.
Yep.
And this is what you call leadership, black people. This is the reason why we in this kind of trouble, because of those kinds of Negroes that's in the Democratic Party who sold the black people out. Randy, your last words, we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. And I agree. The problem is he was gaslighting and grandstanding, over-shouting, and over-talking them.
Yes.
Then they allow them to get a word in. Just saying, like, this is what I did. And if you don't believe me, just wait and see and all this. It's like, okay, that's great. But here are the issues that you didn't address. We get, and then once again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the Democrats love to say, just wait and see. Just wait.
Yep.
Just wait.
He said
Just wait.
Just
wait.
just
You'll
said
see. You'll see. You'll see. And that's what they do. And then when the time came and went, then they're like, oh, we're gonna get it next time around. It was just too much going on. Congress, we got this Congress problem. Congress is not going to do it. No, you have the authority to do it, jackass. You just refuse to do it, and that's a problem.
It's just like Barack Obama. He did the same thing,
and he was on hot mic saying it. Yeah, he was on hot mic saying it.
He said, well, the first 4 years they held my hands. I couldn't do nothing for black people. They had Negroes running around here talking about, well, they tied Barack's hands up and Barack couldn't do nothing. Barack could have did everything. He did everything for everybody else except the black community. And that's what black people need to wake up. And I hope black people have awakened to see that the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, the Barack Obamas, the Hillary Clintons, all these Democrats who have been in office, who have robbed the American people and who have continued to make the black community down spiral by destroying it, bringing in illegals. Joe said that's why I brought him in. This is out of his own mouth. Black people, we got to do better. We got to stop. We got to vote differently. We got to research. And one thing for sure, just out of who we are to gain respectability, we need to go to the polls and vote every Republican in office and get all the Democrats out, and then we go from there. Randy, your last words, and we're going to get out of here.
Yep, I absolutely appreciate it. Hey, folks, we got 4 days. 4 days to the official release of Polarizing America. So go to wherever your favorite bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target for the movie, and place your order. And I appreciate it, Pastor, and I'll catch you next week, sir.
Hey, man, blessings to you. Have a great weekend, man, and we'll do it again Monday if you got time. Okay. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning into the show. I want to say this to Black Americans. We cannot wait any longer. We cannot continue to play this game of waiting. As you sit here and watch the show and all the information that we're putting out, how could you even think about being part of the Democratic Party? Because that's not what it used to be. It doesn't care about black people. It doesn't care about our communities. They only use us when it's time to vote. And that's what we saw during the Biden administration. That was the big coming out party. That's why you see LGBT in the places that it's in, is because they put them there. And to those elite house Negroes, you destroyed your own communities. You bought into a plan that made you rich and do nothing for your community. And in saying that, folks, I got to get out of here. Blessings to you. Y'all have a great weekend. And guess what? We'll see y'all Monday if y'all ain't got nothing to do. Check us out. Have a great weekend.